Alright, Shalom. First and foremost, when I start this lesson off by giving all the praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakudash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Honors to all the brothers who are still fervently preaching the word in sincerity and in faith. Shalom to the sincere Akwath, and Shalom to the scattered Israelites who are amongst these heathen nations and look like these heathens. Now, this lesson is going to be based on this forest fire that's burning out in France. So through the Spirit, I'm going to read this article, get some precepts, and Lord's will, you're edified. It says, Fontainebleau fire still burning at 850, or as 850 firefighters tackle blaze. It says the fire in the Fontainebleau forest, around 60 kilometers from Paris, is still spreading. Around 850 firefighters, 200 vehicles, and 6 aircraft have been deployed. The fire in the Fontainebleau forest in Seine-et-Marne is still not under control, while the main blaze, which began burning late on Sunday afternoon, has already swept through nearly 1,500 hectares. A second fire broke out on Monday, shortly before 3 p.m., near the town of Fontainebleau and its 15,000 residents, and by 9 a.m. on Tuesday morning had reduced 300 to 400 hectares of land to ashes. It says around 850 firefighters and 200 ground vehicles have been deployed. Given the severity of the situation, 4 Canadair aircraft, 2 Dash water bombers, and 3 water bombing helicopters are expected during the day. It is a first for the Ile-de-France region. Seine-et-Marne Prefect Pierre Horry said at his latest press conference it was a fire of a completely exceptional nature and scale, and resources that are just as exceptional, utterly unusual. As you can see for yourselves, Dash aircraft and Canadairs flying over the Fontainebleau forest. Until now, that was something we had previously never seen. And according to local authorities, the urban area of Fontainebleau is not under threat from the fires, but as a precaution, about 1,000 people have been evacuated, including residents of a campsite on the edge of the forest. The busy A6 motorway remains closed near the town. For his part, Interior Minister Laurent Nunez, who had said the previous day that the fire might be of criminal origin, confirmed that 2 people had been taken into custody. One of the suspects is an 18-year-old man who was arrested yesterday at 4 p.m. He was found carrying a lighter, and his hands were covered in soot. But either way, if this happened naturally or if somebody started it by lighting something on fire, either way, all the destruction that's happening from this fire is what the Lord wanted. And it's a sign of the times. 2 Timothy 3:1, this know also that in the last days perilous times shall come. And when you look up the definition of perilous, it means full of danger or risk. It also means hazardous and unsafe. And all you have to do is take a look at all the things going on in the world, and you can see that we are in some unsafe, hazardous, dangerous times. You got earthquakes happening, You got various forms of storms and tempests happening. You got fires burning in different places. You got people out here committing arson and starting these fires. You got shootings happening and stabbings happening more often. Times are definitely becoming more dangerous, just as the scriptures foretold. But in regards to this particular article that I read, the Lord, however he manifested it, whether it happened naturally or he had someone set this fire, it's still burning and it's still causing destruction. Isaiah 29:6, thou shalt be visited of the Lord Yahweh of hosts with thunder and with earthquake and great noise, with storm and tempest and the flame of devouring fire. And that's what that forest fire is doing. It's just devouring everything around it. And it got to the point where, people did have to evacuate because, the government was like, they're going to take some precautions. They're not going to wait until the fire is right on top of those people, and then those people really don't have any way of escaping. They, had people evacuate early, just in case. But that's how you know that it is serious. Because even though they said the fire wasn't necessarily that close, they still wanted to evacuate people because we've seen how fast fires can change direction. 1 minute they might be moving in a direction that's not towards people, not towards, population. But then, the Lord sends a strong enough wind to push it in the other direction. And then the situation goes from, oh, people don't need to evacuate, they don't need to panic, to instant panic and chaos. And that is the time and season that we're in. Just a lot of panic, a lot of chaos, a lot of destruction. Because we are living in the last days, and majority of people cannot wrap their head around that. Majority of people will sit here and be like, well, it's summertime. Fires happen. Storms and tempests happen. They don't understand that these things are not like they used to be. These storms and tempests are happening a lot more frequently, and they're more destructive and deadly than they were before. Same with the fires. Same with the earthquakes. There is a major shift that is happening. And that is ultimately because this is the will of the Lord. Zephaniah 3:5. The just Lord Yahweh is in the midst thereof. He will not do iniquity. Every morning doth he bring his judgment to light. He faileth not, but the unjust knoweth no shame. And that's right. The Heavenly Father is in the midst of all of these. He's in the midst of the fires. He's in the midst of the tornadoes and the hurricanes and the tropical storms and the typhoons and the earthquakes, the volcano eruptions, the shootings, the stabbings, the car crashes, the plane crashes, the animal attacks, everything that happens, the Lord is in the midst of. It says he will not do iniquity. And when you look up iniquity, it means wickedness. So every judgment from the Lord is a righteous judgment, regardless of how it manifests and who suffers from it. Whether a pregnant woman gets hurt or killed, whether a child or a baby gets hurt or killed, it was still a righteous judgment because it came from the Heavenly Father. It says every morning doth he bring his judgment to light. And that's why every morning you wake up and you check the news and something has happened. Because every morning the Lord brings his judgment to light. And because they are his judgments, that means that they're not accidents And they're not random. They're not accidents. They're not random. They were not a mistake. It was the judgment of the Lord. The Lord knows what he's doing. He knows where he's executing judgment. He knows who he's executing judgment upon. The Lord doesn't make mistakes. He's not like, oh, that person that, got hit by that quote unquote stray bullet, one day. Oh, that was an accident. That wasn't supposed to happen. No, that was supposed to happen. That's why it happened. Because it was supposed to happen. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. Everything is meant to happen. Whether you can understand it or not, the Lord has everything happen for a reason. And the same goes with these fires, these flames of devouring fire. The Lord is bringing judgment. Even if nobody gets hurt or killed, there's a lot of land that gets destroyed. People are forced to evacuate from their homes. The air quality drops significantly. Here it is, it's summer. People are supposed to be out having fun. But when you have all these fires burning and all of these storms and tempests and earthquakes happening, how are you supposed to be having fun, And that's why in Isaiah 48 and 22 it says, there is no peace, saith the Lord, unto the wicked. Because a lot of people are very excited about the summer. Because they really thought they were going to be out here just, having fun. Not a lot of people are having fun right now. Because there's just too much chaos and destruction and violence going on. Depending on where in the world you are. Like it says in Psalm 79 and 6, pour out thy wrath upon the heathen that have not known thee, and upon the kingdoms that have not called upon thy name. And the Lord is constantly pouring out his wrath upon these wicked kingdoms. Whether it be in the form of fires, storms, tempests, earthquakes, or however else the Lord decides to manifest his wrath. And ultimately, these are all just signs of the last days and signs of the wrath and vengeance of the Heavenly Father being brought upon the earth. And it's going to become more clear, and these judgments are going to become more destructive and deadly. 144. But with that, I'm going to wrap it up here. In closing, I want to give all the praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahushai, Ba'ashim Rakakudash. The Wadi Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahushai, for putting the spirit on me to do this lesson. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Honors to our brothers who are fervently preaching the word in sincerity and in faith. Shalom to the sincere Akwath, which are the sincere sisters. And shalom to the scattered Israelites who are amongst these heathen nations and look like these heathens. I hope you all stay strong, stay safe, stay fervent, stay circumspect, stay prayed up in Adawan Ratazah, which means Lord's will. Until next time, Shalom.